Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of an LSU Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure.
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own 2 eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you.
I walk a straight line, shackled and chained. Oh, Gruesome Gertie is calling my name. There is no mercy in this penitentiary. Just ask the Hill String Gang or Angola 3. I'm here for life, I'm here to die.
everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Bloody
Angola,
a podcast 142 years in the making.
the complete story of America's bloodiest prison.
And I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
We got a good one for y'all today, and this is, I can't tell you the amount of messages we have from people asking that we do an episode on the most how would you say that?
Prolific.
I'm going to say prophylactic. The most prophylactic electric chair.
The most Trojan electric chair.
In history, and that is Gruesome Gertie.
That's Gertie, y'all.
That's it. And so we're going to talk all about that. We got a couple of interesting stories in particular to tell on Gruesome Gertie that you may not be familiar with.
The electric chair, which was named Gruesome Gertie, became the form of execution starting on June 1st, 1941. And prior to that, y'all, hanging was the form of execution the state of Louisiana used.
And that blew my mind that hanging was used all the way up to 1941. I thought it would have been outlawed, I guess, before that. Yeah. But they were, up until March 7th of 1941.
You tie back into the South's history of lynchings and stuff like that. But when electricity, when they realized, hey, this is a pretty, what they thought, efficient way of killing people. So I don't know how the hell you figure out, we're going to swap from hanging to using electrical current to kill somebody, but they did.
Okay, so we're going to tell you all about the story of the last hanging to take place. It actually took place on March 7th of 1941. And Woody, kind of bring us up to speed on that.
So what happened, there's a prison in Arkansas, not far, about 150 miles from Caldwell Parish, which is where the last hanging took place. And there was a violent prison outbreak and shootouts, and ultimately the Louisiana lawmen captured the guys that escaped.
Yeah, so they captured them, and on March 7th, 1941, it was their execution day. And back then, it was basically just what you picture, the gallows, these trap doors that they had built, these structures that were made of wood, and they would walk the guys out. And, just like you would picture on any Western movie, right. Essentially, they would walk them out, and they would release that contraption that dropped that trap door, and
right. Bam, snapping necks. And their legs were tied so they wouldn't flail too much. Arms tied behind their back, and they would have a bag over their head. That's because in past hangings, the eyeballs actually popped out. But y'all got to remember, these were public executions. Okay, these weren't behind prison walls. It was a public spectacle. All the citizens came. Hey, it was almost like a party, right? And they'd bring them out. And also, the way the hangings work, they weighed the prisoners or the condemned, and they'll have sandbags that would drop when they do the door, so that it's the counterweight that actually, when the bag falls, they fall through, and that makes it snap in the neck.
Wow. Yeah, there's no coming back from that.
Nope. And probably not a really good way to go.
No, I wouldn't imagine it would be.
And some of them would get decapitated. It would rip their whole head off.
Holy cow. Yeah. Wow.
Imagine that, but you got a little JoJo on your knee eating some popcorn watching.
Yeah, and that's what they do. I mean, that was like, the state fair now. Everybody went to the hangings. It's crazy just to think that wasn't that long ago. Yeah. Some people have relatives still alive from 1941.
Right. My mom and dad.
Yeah. 4 guys, and they got the hanging via the gallows on March 7th, 1941. And at that point, Angola started instituting the electric chair. Now, there's something I want to bring up a point here, and that is Louisiana was one of the very last states in the country to use electrocution as their form of execution. As a matter of fact, most of your states did that in the 20s and early 30s. Right. Louisiana liked to hang you.
Yep, that's it.
I mean, there's no other way to put it. There was only one other state, and that was West Virginia, that was after Louisiana.
Wow, that's crazy.
So,
when they started, y'all, there was no execution chamber in Angola, right? So Gruesome Gertie, the electric chair, they actually traveled from parish to parish on the back of a truck with this big-ass generator in the chair. Whatever parish you committed your murder, your crime in that you got sentenced for, they brought you to the courthouse square or the jail of the parish, and that's where they executed you.
The first public execution was actually right here in Livingston Parish.
Livingston Parish.
How about that? Y'all have heard about Livingston Parish through Real Life, Real Crime. Well, that was the very first parish to have an execution via electrocution. And as Woody said, they would bring this chair around on the back of a truck, and they basically bring it to a courthouse or a jail, and that's where it would be carried
wherever
out.
it happened, and the citizens felt like they got justice, and they got to see it.
We're going to tell the story of Eugene Johnson, but before that, Woody, I want you to. Woody's actually sat in the chair.
I did. I sat in the chair when it wasn't in use anymore. I was probably a young teenager and went to tour Angola. And my mom knew I think it was the Butlers, whoever's house it was on the B line. They didn't have storage for the chair when they took it out of use. They stored it in this warden's garage, and I got to sit in it.
Yeah,
it's kind of a little spooky, but cool. It's wood. It has a high, straight back. Has the arms out, kind of like my polygraph chairs do. With the straps on it, and the metal thing that they would use with the wire that came in, they put on the head,
and they put a sponge on that.
Sponge on there to make the electricity more conducive. They would wet the sponge, put it on there, strap it down, light them up, throw the switch.
Now y'all put yourself in that place of a condemned person. And, you know, I don't care how tough you are, how strong you are, when you sit down in that wooden chair and you know you're going to about to have about 3,000 volts jetting through your body, and they take that sponge and they wet it because, hey, we want to make sure that
we get the juice. Yeah. Literally, you get the juice.
You can ride that lightning. We're going to make sure it has a place to go. Yeah. And they stick it on your head and that water's running down your face. And then they take that thing. And not only do they stick that helmet deal on your head, but then they tighten it. And they pull them straps tight.
Yeah, that way. You were strapped down everywhere in your body that you could be. And that tin hat, I guess you would call it.
Let's tell the story of Eugene Johnson. Yes. And to tell you that story, we told you that execution took place in Livingston Parish, and that's kind of where that story starts. A farmer in Livingston Parish by the name of Steve Bench.
Mr. Bench.
Mr. Bench.
Yeah, look, Mr. Bench he's pretty wealthy. You know, he's a farmer. He acquired a lot of money and other property during his lifetime, which he kept at his home. Back then, a lot of people did that. It was after the bank crashes in the 20s, et cetera, and people didn't trust banks.
They didn't trust banks. They kept everything with them.
Kept with them. But, you know, a hardworking farmer who had some success, obviously, but he wasn't putting his shit in the local bank.
No.
He's keeping it at his house.
No, because back in the 20s after the crash, the issue was the banks couldn't give you your money back.
That was before FDIC, y'all.
There wasn't no insured money.
Yeah. So your shit got took, it just got took.
So he would just stash this stuff at his house everywhere, and he was good at saving his money, and he had a ton of it at his house. It was kind of known that, you know, he had a good bit of money. And on the morning of November 23rd, 1940, he was found beaten to death lying on his floor by a neighbor.
Yep. And so Steve Bench had been robbed, and the house was completely ransacked. And the police arrived, and they noticed a $100 bill lying on the floor in the bedroom, and that they searched further, and they located $2,500 in savings bonds in a stove. Now, to have a $100 bill back then, that's like a $1,000 bill now or more. Yeah, but $2,500 in savings bonds. For you young listeners who don't know, you could buy savings bonds for less than what the face value was, and they had to accrue maturity over time. Once they reached that maturity, then you could go in and cash it.
And they found it in his stove. So he was trying to put it in a place where nobody, maybe it was an old wood stove or something that he didn't use. And he hid it in there and it worked. They didn't find it. They beat him to death, but they didn't find that $2,500 in savings bonds.
But they kept investigating it, and they found that Mr. Bench had been robbed of several $1,000s in currency of large denominations, which is a ton of money, y'all, in the 40s.
Yeah, to put that into perspective, in 1940, y'all, an average home was only $3,000. A new car,
that's crazy.
$800. A gallon of gas, 18 cents a gallon.
18 cents. That is crazy.
So that tells you how much money that was. That was like finding $25,000 nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what do? They organized a posse, a true posse.
Yes.
Was organized by the peace officers of Tangipahoa and Livingston Parish after they learned suspects were two black men, Eugene Johnson and Eddie Garrett, and they were seen escaping into the woods behind Mr. Bench's home.
Yeah, so basically a neighbor or somebody that was paying attention saw at some point two black men running out the back of this guy's house and escaping into the woods. Posse, here we go. These guys got together. They started chasing and looking, and they actually found, shot, and killed Eddie Garrett. In the process, he dropped $2,400 of money stolen from the deceased in the chase.
Yeah, that would have bought you a house, right? That's crazy. But Eugene Johnson got away, and he ran to New Orleans, where he met Ashton Hurd, who later was found to be a third assailant of the deceased.
So Johnson and Hurd are on the run, right? They're in New Orleans. They got to figure out how to get out of there. The heat's on them. The posse's chasing them. So they go and they purchase a Dodge car with cash, and they haul ass to Houston, Texas. And they actually had 3 other people with them that were friends of theirs, I guess. And they leave for Houston with money.
But the problem for them was the posse was still hot on their trail, and they tracked the group to Houston. And on January 18th, 1941, Livingston Parish Sheriff P.R. Irwin, who served as a sheriff here, y'all, from 1940 to 48, arrested Eugene Johnson, who was alone at a hotel at the time. And when asked where his partner Ashton Hurd was, he led the posse to a bar in Houston where they made Hurd's arrest.
Subsequently, Eugene Johnson was convicted and got executed via Gruesome Gertie, the very first execution. This was at the Livingston Parish Jail on September 11th, 1941. Now, I want you to note something. Note the length of time between the capture and the execution.
9 months.
How long does it take now?
Like 900 years.
And he ain't kidding.
But
that's crazy to me.
Yeah. And y'all, my office, and that's in the old jail, which was upstairs in the old courthouse. And my office, I had my own private office as a detective, where I did polygraphs and everything else, and interviews on murders and everything. And that's that very room where Eugene Johnson would have to come down to when they took him out and hooked him up to Gruesome Gertie.
Now, and this was the very first execution in the state of Louisiana via electrocution. And so certainly they didn't have electricity mastered at that time.
No. And nor the execution method, right? And so I guarantee you this was the start of the policy and procedure manual, because everything that's in the policy procedure manual, wherever you work at, is in there because somebody fucked something up.
Yeah. So I found that very interesting, just from the fact of not only the first execution, but the fact that it took place in Livingston Parish, which is something we do talk about often.
Hey, well, I'm going to say this because this is in my mind's eye. Now, y'all, this wasn't inside the jail. Gruesome Gertie came to town on the back of a flatbed trailer with these big ass generators, right? What they ran electricity off of. I imagine that was quite a spectacle to see.
Oh my God.
Right? I mean, can you imagine this big old deuce and a half pulling up, big ass, and how big the generators had to be back then to make that electricity?
Look, and back then you brought your kids. It was
advertised.
Yeah.
I bet you It was 9 months between the execution. I bet you they were advertising it at 7 months before the exexecution, right?
You're going to have growing pains when you start executing people via electricity.
Somebody's going to have some pains.
Somebody's going to have some pains, and Louisiana being no different. And they actually had a botched execution that took place on May 3rd of 1946.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Well, in 1944, Andrew Thomas, a pharmacist from St. Martinville, Louisiana, was shot and killed. And during the 9-month investigation, the evidence finally pointed to a former employee named Willie Francis, that he was the killer.
Yeah, and at that time, he was already detained in Texas. So this murder took place. The police started investigating, and they found out, or they suspected Willie Francis as the killer. They started looking for him, found out he was in Texas for an unrelated crime. These Louisiana officers traveled to Texas to interview him. You know, he tried to lie. He tried to basically say these other guys were involved, but he did something that Woody knows a little bit about, and that was he got put under interrogation. He admitted to the murder and supplied 2 separate written murder confessions.
Now, I know the execution was botched, but I can't imagine the interrogation techniques they used back then to get them to supply 2 different murder confessions. We could just assume, right? Because certainly I wasn't there and Jim wasn't there, but I can guarantee you. I'm going to leave that one.
And I do know he wasn't lawyered up. So
I don't even think they had Miranda back then. But,
yeah.
Anyway, he gave not 1, but 2 separate murder confessions. Then he was extradited back to Louisiana, where he led officers to the holster used to carry the murder weapon. And shortly thereafter, the police found the gun near the crime scene, which was stolen from a St. Martinville deputy sheriff who at one point had threatened to kill Francis.
Right. So Francis was no angel, y'all. And you know, in my opinion, just seeing the evidence, he definitely did it. Right. But he was no angel. He had a reputation. St. Martinville is a Cajun community that at that time was very, very small. Right. So everybody knew Willie Francis, right. And he did not have a good reputation. He was known as a troublemaker, known as a guy that was in and out of, you know, issues with the police. And right. He actually stole the deputy sheriff's gun. Right. And that was the gun that was actually used to kill the pharmacist, Andrew Thomas.
And then, let me go back for a second. When I say they, you know, by hook or crook, they got 2 confessions out of him. Even if you beat somebody in a confession or whatever, he still brought them back to Louisiana and showed them where the holster was, and the weapon was found nearby. So I'm not saying, well, maybe they didn't beat him. I would just assume that they probably did. But either way, he showed them where the weapon was, and they took him to trial, and the trial lasted a whole 2 days. And
2 days.
Francis, who was 15 at the time of the murders, was quickly convicted.
I bet he was.
Get a rope, but that shit was out. And now get Gertie.
Get Gertie. He's about to ride the lightning. So on May 3rd, 1946, at the age of 17, Francis actually went to see Gruesome Gertie, sat down in it, and the first execution attempt failed. Holy crap.
Yeah, right? So when the lever was flipped and Francis began screaming, take it off, let me breathe.
As the expected lethal surge was applied.
That's crazy.
So yeah, they flip this lever. He starts screaming, and he's quoted as saying, take it off, let me breathe.
Right. And it didn't kill him. It shocked the shit out of him.
Can only imagine. I want to sit here and I
can't. I'm having all these sickening thoughts in my mind, I guess you would say. So they took him off, y'all. I mean, it wasn't working. They kept trying to shock the shit out of him, trying to kill him. It was frying him, but it wasn't killing him. So they took him off, and they did an investigation.
Yeah, what I'm sure they're wondering what happened, right?
Right.
So what happened?
It was determined after the investigation, it was determined that the deputy that hooked Francis up and set up Gertie was drunk as shit and had only partially hooked it up.
Yeah. That's a true story, y'all. This
You can't make this
deputy was so smashed that I don't know what he forgot to hook up, but
obviously he wasn't an electrician.
obviously, and actually only partially hooked it up. So, if it's meant to deliver 2,000 volts, it might have only been delivering 200.
Right.
So it was enough to just
it was enough to make a scream, take it off, let me breathe.
But not enough to kill him.
Not enough to kill him. And the deputy was shit-faced. And you
can't make that up.
Pretty much sure he didn't have a job after that.
Yeah, he probably got fired, I would imagine. Yeah. So this caused quite the uproar, as you can imagine, y'all. Attorneys got involved, went to court, and tried to get Francis's sentence commuted to life instead of a death sentence. And they tried to use the defense that was basically cruel and unusual punishment. They felt like he had been put through, and look, he had I mean, when you sit down in the chair and you think this is it, and then they shock you for 20 minutes and you don't die,
they melt half of you. But,
oh my God. So he basically took over that case, and they fought it in court. And it was for back in those days, that was a court battle. It took a year in the courts to decide that no, he's still getting executed. It is not cruel and unusual punishment. They've actually had books written about this case since then. It was a big deal.
You did a hell of a job researching that, Joe.
So we're going to...
On May 9th, 1947, they finally successfully completed the execution of Francis.
So we're going to read the actual newspaper article from May 10th, 1947, the day after Willie Francis was executed. And
hey, ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone supporting supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes, plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/reallife. That's GOBBLE.com/real-life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
The headline says, second trip to chair, Willie Francis dies.
St. Martinville, Louisiana. Willie Francis made his second trip to the electric chair yesterday wearing his Sunday pants and his Sunday heart. The same chair which spared his life through a mechanical failure a year ago took it quickly and apparently painlessly. Electrocutioner Grady Jarrett threw the switch at 12:05 p.m. Central Standard Time and again at 12:06 and at 12:10. The Negro was pronounced dead. This newspaper article from 1947, that's what they call, certainly we wouldn't call an African American a Negro today. But this is a real newspaper article.
Willie Francis told me 2 days ago that he was going to wear my Sunday pants and my Sunday heart to the chair. Ain't going to wear no beat up pants to see the Lord, he said. Busy talking my way into heaven for the past year. Them folks expecting me to come in style.
Oh, Lord. Willie.
Willie paid the legal penalty for the killing of Andrew Thomas, a white druggist of St. Martinville, in a holdup that netted $14 and a watch. Thomas' brother, Claude, who was chief of police here at the time of the slaying, was among the witnesses yesterday. Francis went to the chair after a year argument over the right of Louisiana to attempt an execution a second time after a mechanical accident had prevented the first try. The fight went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, where the high justices divided 5-4 last January in a ruling against Francis. Only Thursday, the Supreme Court had turned down another plea which Willie's lawyer had taken to Washington without knowledge of the condemned man. Francis walked his last half dozen steps on earth yesterday without a flicker of fear or apparent excitement. Twice he wiped the palms of his brown hands against the legs of his dark pinstriped trousers. He caught my eye as the broad chest strap was being fixed and snapped me in a jaunty one-fingered salute. He said, "Hello," slightly, moving his lips exaggeratedly to shape the word. As the leg straps were being adjusted, he looked at his lap, closed his eyes, and then opened them and grinned at another witness. The fact that more than a score of whites were jammed into the smoky, brick-walled room, a little larger than an indoor tennis table, didn't appear to affect him.
And asked by the electrocutioner if he had anything to say before going, Willie said quietly, "Nothing at all."
When the current hit him, 2,700 volts, he took it without a tremor. So Willie Johnson gets executed for a second time in 1947.
Yeah. He rode the lightning out that time.
Something interesting about that, and this is why this paper intrigued me so much, is they even named the executioner back then.
Yeah. So they don't do that nowadays. There's so many different ways they do it now with the lethal injection. Nobody knows who it is who actually pushes the buttons. And I've heard they have 2 sets of buttons. So, and it's 2 people that are unnamed. So they don't even know if they're administering a placebo or not. But now you certainly not get named as they in the article, they didn't call him the executioner. They called him the electrocutioner.
Yeah.
Which I thought was.
That's a good point.
Pretty strange.
Yeah, that is.
So
That's a good point.
They revamped the term over the years from the electrocutioner to executioner.
Now, this process, y'all, took place until 1957. So it was basically another 10 years since Willie Francis got executed that they eventually put Gruesome Gertie in Angola and said, we need one place in order for these executions to take place. Up until that time, they were still driving from parish to parish. Wherever you committed that crime, that's where you got executed. Now, obviously, or in 1957, it changed, and they said, well, we're going to have one place where we execute all these guys, and that'll be in Angola.
It actually was the Red Hat cell block.
Yeah, that's right. So one of our famous episodes, Red Hat Cell Block.
Go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
So, Gruesome Gertie made its way to Angola in 1957. It was decided executions would now take place in Angola rather than traveling to individual parishes. And the last person executed in Angola via Gruesome Gertie was Andrew Lee Jones on July 22nd, 1991.
Yeah, so since that time, Gruesome Gertie eventually, they thought it was a little bit inhumane. So they went from hanging to executions, and then they thought riding the lightning was a little bit too gruesome.
Because people challenged it, right? All over the United States. It didn't just start out in Louisiana before they put the moratorium on it as cruel and unusual. And that's when, after that was done, at some point I got to sit in it, and that was before they swapped methods.
Yeah, so they moved to another method, and that was lethal injection in 1991, and they retired Gruesome Gertie after claiming 87 souls. So 87 people were executed via that chair that Woody sat in.
That's crazy.
Does that freak you out?
That's crazy. And I thought about that. I thought it was like 80-something. 87 is even better, I guess, for being freaky.
Yeah.
But we are going to be going to Angola, Jim and I, and doing a tour, and we will certainly post. I'm sure there's some on the internet, but we'll post pictures of Gruesome Gertie.
Yes, and just whether you agree with death penalty, not whether you agree with executions or not, it is a huge part of Angola history.
Yep.
In particular, I was shocked at the amount of people that did not realize that prior to it being housed in Angola full time, it would actually travel.
It was drive-up service.
It was drive-up service. Look, they brought it to you.
Bring it directly to you, man.
Yeah, and 87 people overall being executed in it before they switched to lethal injection. And some pretty famous people here. I know the Dead Man Walking was a huge movie based off of someone in Angola. So a lot has taken place in that particular chair, Gruesome Gertie. And of course, named Gruesome Gertie for the method of execution that was used.
Yeah,
it was gruesome.
Look, when you execute somebody, their head's going to smoke. They've had stories of electricity shooting out their fingertips, sparks, and of course the burnt flesh. It's not a good way to go, right?
And let's talk about that for a second, Woody, with executions, and it's no different with lethal injection now, but the electric chair, there's an execution room. Does family go to that? Kind of tell us the process.
Nowadays, the process is the victim's family gets to have pretty much whoever they want, but not distant cousins or whatever. The closest family members to them sit on one side, and then the condemned, the person being executed, is allowed X amount of family members and a religious person if they so choose. Then there is also at least two members of the media who are drawn by lottery to get the witness to execution.
Yeah.
And they bring them in, and the warden has to read the death warrant. That's what it's called. That the state of Louisiana hereby condemns you to execution by whatever means for the murder of da-da-da-da. You have any last words? A lot of them say, fuck you, or they don't say anything at all. Of course, the phone's on the wall in case the governor calls in at the last second to give a reprieve.
Yeah. And the governor is the only one that can give a reprieve on that. And that phone is actually red.
Yeah, that's right. They don't get there, y'all. That's why it takes so long to kill somebody now, not to kill them, but to execute people now. And now it's our attorney general and our governor fighting over the legality of the drugs being purchased and who can't purchase it. So everybody's sitting up there for 18, 20 plus years. They have the long, lengthy appeals process. And ultimately, after all those appeals are exhausted, every court, all the way to the Supreme Court, if they decide to hear it, then the parole board it has a hearing on it, and they make a recommendation to the governor, and the governor ultimately makes that final decision.
So when when all this is taking place and they've worked through all the appeals process and everything's been exhausted, and hey, you're going to ride the lightning regardless. Right. You have what's called like a last meal.
Okay, yeah.
Tell us about that.
We're going to do a whole series on these, but they take them from death row to what they call the death watch house. It's a totally different area. They put you in there a couple of days ahead of time, and you cell by yourself. And guess what? You have a correctional officer that sits right there in front of your cell the whole time. Your last hours, the last couple of days, last hours, just to make sure you don't kill yourself before the state of Louisiana gets a chance to kill you.
Yeah.
And then the condemned gets a last meal where they request pretty much anything they want to. And it's so interesting. And I want to do a whole series on one day of the different shit people request for the last meal. But that last day, they'll get to have family member visits, their clerical or clergy visit, or whatever, and they prepare them. But during that time, the last day, they have the strap down team that practices on them, and they'll practice with another guard who's the same approximate size and weight as the inmate first, and they'll go in and look. It's like surgery, baby. Everybody's got a limb to grab in case you buck up when you're taking that last few steps into the death chamber. So the death watch cell is that close to the chamber. So basically, you got to walk past that bitch to sit there for your final however many hours, get your last meal, you get your last couple of visits, and they come back and they say, it's time. And then they don't play. They come in as it's a team, the tie down team or whatever they call them. Everybody has a specific limb or a specific job to do. They get them in there. They strap them down. Now, the curtains are closed. The people can't see that when that's going on. The curtains are closed. They strap them down. They'll run the IV. Then the chair, the table now sits up, and view it through the glass. And that's when they read the death warrant and say, do you have any final words? And, whatever they say or don't say, then they lay it down and they push the buttons.
That's it.
Gertie was the same thing. Oh, you know what's crazy about Gertie? Most of the times they had to throw the electricity more than one time, like once, twice, three times. So they hit them for however long until they say stop. And they stop. They'd be smoking and shit. And,
oh my gosh.
And they hit them again. But most of the time he was probably dead from the first jolt.
Yeah.
They hit him up to like.
They want to make sure he's dead.
Up to like 3 times. Then they'll come in and test him, for heartbeat and whatever, and they pronounce him dead.
Yeah. So the execution room itself, not very big, not what you would imagine. It would just be this, because it's such a big, I guess, event. You would imagine it to be bigger than what it was. My wife has actually seen it. Yeah, and she was shocked at how small the area is that the family sits in and the witnesses.
Right.
As Woody said, there's a curtain. That curtain opens once that inmate is strapped down in Gruesome Gertie's case. And they asked, do you have any last words? And yes, no, whatever.
We got some episodes just to do on last words and last meals. Because, you wouldn't believe some of the shit people say or what they want to eat. And Jim and I are going to go in there. I'm going to get Jim to sit in Gruesome Gertie.
Oh,
you do that?
I'll do it in a heartbeat.
But then I also want to see us to see the death cell the death chamber and the room where people get to watch it.
Yeah, so we'll definitely put something out for the chase team after that event,
Right.
and let y'all check that out. But what a history with Gruesome Gertie, and Woody, what is the holdup now with? Obviously, capital punishment is still a thing, but it's on hiatus.
It's not,
I guess you could say
it's on hiatus because our attorney general wants to proceed with executions, and our governor is like, I'm not buying, I'm not signing off for this lethal cocktail to be purchased. And there's some people saying that doctors won't order it because it goes against the Hippocratic Oath because they know it's going to be used to kill somebody. But literally, our governor and our attorney general are in a pissing contest. The governor doesn't want the executions. The attorney general does. Landry doesn't want them.
Landry does want them.
Well, Landry wants them, and what Edwards doesn't. Yeah. So, but it's coming. Edwards ain't always going to be in office, and you better believe Louisiana per capita killed more people executed more people than anyone.
Right.
Now, Texas lines them up a couple a night.
Yeah,
right?
Texas don't play.
But in our day, we led per capita in executions.
So that is the story of Gruesome Gertie. We hope y'all enjoyed that.
Yeah, I loved it. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
We hope y'all enjoyed it, and we appreciate and love each and every one of y'all.
Thank you, Chase team members.
So Chase team members, we love y'all. If you're not a Chase team member, Chase team members get commercial-free early releases. They get locked up bonus episodes, like we did one today on prison terms, which is fire, by the way. But we get this we want to take a moment to acknowledge, like we have in past episodes, each Chase team member or each new Chase team member. Joe?
Yeah, so we're going to go fast through these because we have quite a few to get through, but we want to definitely thank each and every one of you. We love you to death. So Francine Fitting, thank you very much for being a Chase team member.
All right, Dalton Voss, thank you very much for being a Chase team member. We appreciate you.
Shannon Sharpton, thank you very much.
Christy Smith, thank you. We appreciate you.
Brandy Lacombe, thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. Kelly Hawkins, thank you so much.
Jackie Savoy, thank you for being a Chase team member.
Yep. And Holly Blackburn, thank you. We appreciate you.
Alexis Delat, thank you so much for being a Chase team member.
Yes, indeed. And Miss Kayla Lee, a dear friend of mine, I arrested her on her birthday. Not really, y'all. I just went in and read her rights. I did put her cuffs on her. Right? That was her husband's request and a friend's request. Kayla Lee, thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes. Susan Laborde Pert.
Oh, but she's always around, right? Thank you.
She's awesome. Love her.
Brooke Beach, thank you so much for being a Chase team member.
Michelle Pierce, thank you so much.
Alice Fontenot, thank you so much for being a Chase team.
Kim Bizette, thank you for being a Chase team member.
Yes, and Elizabeth Gaza, thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate you.
Terry Underwood, thank you.
Yes, and Kylie Messer, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Kelly McGee Hess, thank you so much for being a Chase team member.
Yes, Kyla Randazzo, thank you for being Chase team.
Yes, and Miss Kyla, they own Randazzo's right here in Denham Springs. So we're going to give them yes, they do. And Miss Kyla and her husband are just great people. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nikki Sutton, thank you so much for being a Chase team member.
Tisha Dubrock, thank you for being Chase team.
Haley Jones, always around. Haley Jones.
Definitely.
She loves our stuff, comments on it constantly, and we love you to death. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hannah Reynolds, thank you so much for being Chase team.
Emily Salimi, thank you so much for being a Chase team member.
Dara Blank, thank you. We appreciate you.
Jody Perry. I'm going to jack up your last name, Miss Jody. I'm going to spell it. Jody, P-E-R-E-Y-D-A. Forgive me, but tell me how to pronounce that. Write it out in the comments. But thank you so much for being a Chase team member.
Yep, thank you. And Danielle Ponsetti, thank you so much for being Chase team.
Maimu Wama, thank you for being a Chase team member.
All right. Evan Jackson, thank you for being Chase team.
Sharon Welch, thank you for being a Chase team member.
And Miss Catherine Ford, thank you for being Chase Team.
Olivia Brooks, thank you for being a Chase Team member.
And Dana Boyer, thank you so much.
Stacy O'Brien, good little Irish name there. Thank you for being a Chase Team member.
Diane Beeson, thanks for being a Chase Team member.
Joseph, and I don't have your last name, but thank you. You know who you are. Appreciate you, brother.
Yep. Leslie Lovett, thank you for being Chase Team.
Brandon Nations, thank you for being a Chase Team member.
Yes, and Leah Flurry, thank you for being a Chase Team member.
Ashley Arnold, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes, and Miss Pamela Gilchrist, always around. Thank you, Miss Pamela, for being Chase Team.
Tim Kaiser, love to see these guys join the Chase Team, man.
Shout out, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and so, y'all, we just want to take this moment and give you a shout out, and we appreciate and love each and every one of you. You're making this show run. The more Chase Team members we get, the more content we get to put up, and the better episodes we can bring you.
We appreciate all of you. And if you need information on being a Chase Team member, look, we've got a link tree that we just did. You can go to that link tree. It's got it on there. You can go to Patreon and just in the search box, type in Bloody Angola. And it'll bring you right to it. We release some pretty unique things on there. We even upload files from time to time on different things. So check out the Chase Team. If you're not already a member, bonus episodes, early release episodes, commercial free. That's a big thing. And before we get out of here today, Woody, commercials. Let's talk about that real quick.
Right.
Go ahead.
So, y'all, when we started Bloody Angola, before you can get national commercials, you have to have so many thousands of listeners, and we didn't have that. When Jim and I started it,
at zero.
Obviously at zero, but almost as a lark, because we love the prison system and the story, and we knew this would be good stories. We had no idea we'd have such success, but we sold the commercials locally and pretty much loaded up the episodes, for a lack of a better term. And we get that a lot of you thought that was way too much and all that, and so. Yeah,
we definitely apologize if we did anything other than make the listening experience great for you.
Right. And so in the future, certainly we're going to have commercials, but it won't be
to the extent.
You won't be overloaded like it was. We're on a whole new level now, thanks to our success. Thank you to each and every one of you listeners. And hey, if you can't be a Chase Team member, we get it. We love you just as much. But we appreciate y'all. You're going to have a better listening experience going forward from the commercial standpoint. Hey, and if you don't like the commercials, you can always join the Chase Team.
That's right. So until next time, I'm Jim Chapman.
And I'm Woody Overton.
We're your host of Bloody
Angola,
a podcast 142 years in the making.
The story of America's bloodiest prison.
Peace.
Excellent.
I walk a straight line, shackled and chained. Oh, Gruesome Gertie is calling my name. There is no mercy in this penitentiary. Just ask the Hill String Gang, or Angola 3. I'm here for life, I'm here to die. Inside these walls, inside the wire. And when the wolf cries, I know it's over. Oh, bloody Angola.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?